I feel like so often we waste so much time creating slides that we end up not using. So storyboarding is a great way to prevent you from wasting all of that effort, because good slides take a long time. So when you think of storyboarding, you should think of all of these areas that I might throw out on my storyboard could be a single slide, but maybe some could be combined and some might be thrown out. So with storyboarding, that's when you begin the structure of your story before creating that first slide. And it could be done with sticky notes. I love the idea of sticky notes. If you're on a team and you're trying to put together a presentation or some kind of pitch, you could stand up, a lot of times standing up and looking down at a table with a big piece of paper and just throwing out all the ideas that could potentially go into the story. That's kind of how you start the storyboarding process. And you should always have a discard pile. So some ideas might get thrown to the waste, but the great thing about sticky notes is that you might be able to bring them back depending on which direction you go in. If you're doing more virtual work or working with a virtual team, you could use Google Slides, some kind of software where it allows you to at least put your ideas to the side if you're not sure you're going to put them back in. But I wanted to create this slide for you because this just shows all the options that you could build into your presentation that might fit within that story that you share with everyone. Anything to add?
I'm taking a look at these to see if I have questions over any of these. The historical or environmental context. Again, this is a great example of why knowing your audience matters. If they know why they're at this meeting, they know the history. Don't spend time, don't waste time on that, right? That might end up in the discard pile, but yes. In other cases, it might be really important.
And too often we spend too much time with that historical or environmental context, and we end up boring the audience, or they're demanding, just get to your ask, just get to your reason why you're here today. Another thing that I wanted to bring up about storyboarding is that you could storyboard little chunks of your presentation. So think about, like, if you're writing a book, you could storyboard the entire book, but you can also storyboard individual chapters. You can do that with your presentation, outline your entire presentation, but then also storyboard individual parts of your presentation.
All right. What does biases to address mean? Can you give us an example of what that might look like in a presentation? Why would we want to address a bias in a presentation of our data?
Becca, do you have anything there?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Brenda. Possibly data, this is such a wide topic, data. There's, as we know, a lot of fields people are coming from. Think in your own industry, what types of biases might impact the outcomes or assumptions made based on the data collection. We had a conversation earlier about not taking advantage of the data, but distilling it down to simplify your message. So the biases to address come in there. It's hard to answer that without a specific example.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking of maybe this falls in a different category, but like maybe it's an assumption I make or a bias that I have about reading data is that I assume just at a glance of a slide that that positive is good, that above the line is always better than below the line, that an upward trend is always a good trend. But that's not always the case. In some cases, I want my data to trend in a different direction. Below the line is the good thing, having, if we're reporting safety incidents, for example, I want the number to go down. We didn't have as many incidents last quarter as we did the quarter before. That's a good thing. But so I call that out pretty quickly if the data looks counterintuitive to how we're used to playing with data.
Sure. And Chris even noted here too, if the source of the data has already has an inherent bias because of how it was sourced, that should be explained too. I think that's a great point to make. Where is it coming from? if it's from a certain area or a certain department or something, or even the way that the question was worded, maybe that's something to address too.
And then Megan takes it in a, hi Megan, great to see you. Megan takes it in a different direction. She's another one of our IU friends. She's working with student retention data. And so there are audience biases automatically sort of built in. And then if the data looks to corroborate that or to negate that, that's something that you've kind of got to get to your audience mindset and say, now, hey, wait, before we even look at this, let's make sure we're not making assumptions about this or that. So that's great. Thank you. Great example, Megan. Appreciate that. Okay, so we're building our story. We know that these are some different categories of Post-it notes or Google Slides that we might create. We might throw them in the discard pile. We might spend 30 seconds on one and 20 minutes on another, depending on the audience analysis.
Get feedback from storyboarding. So once you place it in that linear fashion that you think, okay, this is how I'm going to tell the story. Take a step back, get feedback from colleagues. Get feedback from maybe someone who's not seeing it the way that you're seeing it, just to understand, am I getting the entire picture here?
Yeah. And get that feedback earlier rather than later. I think the more I work on a presentation, the more I get sort of entrenched in how I'm going to do it, and I'm more resistant to feedback. But if I haven't put much time into it, then it's easy to go, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that. Flip flop and start rearranging things.
And that's why you don't create slides, because it's like this thing, once you create a slide, you feel tied to it. You're like, I have to show this. I have to show it because I spent so much time on this slide. So do this before you create the slides. And then the next part is creating the actual story.